It was just a normal day in Ponyville. Fluttershy was at the market to buy some food for animals' friends, since the food that they required was getting low. And at the market, she ran into her friend Shooting Star. Shooting Star was also at the market to buy some food for himself, and he was actually quite surprised to see his friend Fluttershy at the market. So they start talking about for only a few minutes before Fluttershy had to continue her shopping. But they promised to see each other soon again, and even that same afternoon. Shooting Star was in fact in the woods nearby where Fluttershy lived when he came across an injured rabbit, and he knew that Fluttershy lived very close by, so he decided to go there to see if she can help. Fluttershy was a little bit surprised to see that Shooting Star was there, but when she saw the injured rabbit, she immediately had big eyes, and she asked what happened. And Shooting Star instead, he doesn't even know, only that he found his rabbit injured not so far from her cottage. And since he was very close to her home, rather go back into town to Dr. Fauna, so he thought maybe to go see her since Fluttershy lives the closest. So and she said, "Come in." So Shooting Star handed over the rabbit to Fluttershy, who asked the rabbit what happened. And it turned out that this rabbit didn't had his foot broken, which was a very good thing. It has only sprangled his foot from it when it had to stay at Fluttershy's cottage for the next couple of days to see so that the injury doesn't get any worse. Fluttershy thanked Shooting Star for his help to find this rabbit. Hinton said that no problem. I will always want to help any of my friends if they need it. And he said if I ever find one other injured animals in the area, I will always bring them back to you because the animals always love your help. And that made her smile and blush a bit and said, "Yeah, they do." Before Shooting Star was about to leave, Fluttershy asked if he was hungry, which he was in fact. She asked him if he wanted to have some sandwiches and some tea, and he said, "Why not? I'm getting hungry myself, so they went outside her cottage to sit down to have some tea and some sandwiches. They were talking about some of her animals that she had over the years, and he did in fact had asked her, "What is the most unusual animal you had looked after?" Even that ever since rare Fluttershy has the rare ability to talk to animals. He knew that she had been looking after birds and even regular pets like dogs, cats, and even some cows for some time. But she had to figure out exactly what would be the most unusual animal she had been looked after, or at least helped. She explained the most unusual that he could come up with was the manticore Manny that lives in the Every Forest. A manticore? You really could handle a manticore? She just nodded and said that he wasn't that dangerous. But then he asked, "Would you even perhaps look after maybe other animals like, I don't know, a chimera?" That made her surprised though, but he said, but Fluttershy did say, "Perhaps, if this chimera was at least not in a hungry mood or like, but I'm not so sure. I never came across an injured chimera or anything like that before." And the answer made him quite satisfied for that. But then he'd ask, "What would you do if Discord was injured I mean, not any serious, but maybe a sprained hoof or something like that, or a cold or something. Fluttershy said that she would take care of her. That was something he would also. But then he remembers that Fluttershy had been to Discord's dimension, what he called Chaosville. He in fact asked her how how was her first impression or her first reaction to be when she came to his dimension in the first place. She was silent for a bit, even though now she knows that the Discord is the Lord of Chaos, and that he preferred to have some place where he can perform his chaos abilities or powers without that Celestia or Luna would be very much not saying that he couldn't do. So she said that she was not expecting as much as well, she could even describe the layout of this dimension because Shooting Star hasn't even been there. But she tried to describe it as best as she could, and he said, "Wow, that sounds like a bit crazy, but also at the same time, very interesting environment." I know this may sound a bit strange. How do you try how to describe it or explain how it even looks like? But I take your word from it. Fluttershy then asked if Shooting Star would even consider maybe to go with her to Chaosville to discuss a dimension for some tea for some other time. He said that he would have to think about it since he usually helps Twilight at the castle or sort of friendship from time to time. And but he said he probably would take the offer. Of course, if only if this court would be allowed with. I mean, at least he was to be okay with it. He said. Fluttershy said that he might be a little bit surprised that Fluttershy brings a friend, but he probably would get along with it. After all, Shooting Star and Discord were in fact very good friends. But he would be less surprised unless that Shooting Star came along with Fluttershy without being informed. But if Discord were informed about Fluttershy is bringing a friend over and who this is, then he wouldn't have any problem. And even though Shooting Star said he might actually enjoy that, and after all, he very much enjoyed Discord's company from time to time, and he said, "What about on Friday? Since I don't have any plans for Friday." And Fluttershy said that she could actually ask Discord then. So after they had their tea, Shooting Star had to go back home. Even though, even on his way back home, he actually thought maybe something about this invitation to have tea with Fluttershy and Discord might be very interesting. But at the same time, he was not so sure how Discord's first reaction would be like. He can only imagine, it's like, wait, you bring a friend over to our tea party? Or, well, this Fluttershy, I'm not sure about that though. I mean, this is our usual tea party moment for ourselves. But if you bring a friend, I wouldn't say no. But I mean, for him, he could in Shooting Star could even realize exactly what outcome it would have. So for the next couple of days, things actually started looking forward. He actually started looking forward to have his tea party, or at least a tea, with Fluttershy and Discord. And in fact, even on Thursday afternoon, when he was just out for a walk in town, he in fact came across Discord. "Oh, Discord. Hi. What are you doing here?" he asked. You know, just hanging around." And he was literally hanging, floating in the air. Just hanging there and reading a magazine upside down. You know you're reading that magazine upside down, right? And he said, I prefer to read it this way. Fair enough, he said. I heard you are being invited to tea party with me and Fluttershy this Friday. That's that's right. I mean, she had invited me, but I could understand. I would understand if you do not want to with me to join your tea party. Shooting Star, me, Lord of Chaos, never want to allow you one friend of Fluttershy to join our tea party. You really would expect me from being like that? Well, not exactly, though, Discord. I thought maybe you prefer to have your tea party with Fluttershy by yourself. Maybe invite some friends from time to time, but like I did say to Fluttershy, she probably would have to ask you first rather than showing up at your home with a friend without being informed. I mean, you can understand your reaction just like if Jeff Fluttershy works suddenly shows up with a friend which you had even been informed who's going to join you, and you might understand what I mean. And Disco just nodded and said, of course. So, am I still invited for the tea party? And all Disco just nodded to say, well, you will be, have to be at her place for since she will be going from there, he said with a smile. Alright, I will see you then on Friday. Even the Friday just only one day away from happened. Shooting Star wasn't even much any nervous anymore because ever since now Discord had confirmed that he was invited, but and he also said he had to be at Fluttershy's cottage at noon because that was the time when she was about to leave to his dimension, and he promised to be there. But something did happen that afternoon, that early morning next day. Shooting Star received a message from Spike that he was needed at the School of Friendship, that he had to be the gym teacher for the Fridays class. And since Rainbow Dash was usually the gym teacher, but she was at the Wonderbolt Academy, so there weren't any other opponents that could fill out this teaching class for the day. Even Fluttershy had herself was also being informed about this, and Twilight did mention in the message that she tried to find out some other opponent that could fill like this role as a gym teacher for today. But she didn't have any luck of finding anyone to beat it, except for Shooting Star. And since Shooting Star was the only opponent that she could even consider otherwise would willing to stand up. But then he told Spike that he was supposed to having tea party with Fluttershy and Discord at his dimension. And Discord was somehow looking forward to both Shooting Star and Fluttershy. So Spike was told by Shooting Star that he will be a bit late, that he had to tell Fluttershy that he won't be able to join the tea party. And Spike said that he would tell to tell Twilight about it. So the same early noon, just only about maybe as 1 hour before Fluttershy was about to go to Discord's dimension. Shooting Star arrived at her cottage and she was surprised to see him just 1 hour early. She was like, Shooting Star, it's just only 11 a.m. You're not supposed to be in front of you tonight in an hour. Yeah, about that, Fluttershy. I really am sorry I had to cancel my plans for this. Oh? Yeah, it turns out Twilight asked me to be the gym teacher for this class today at School of Friendship. It turned out that Rainbow usually is one, but she is at the Wonderful Academy today, so and Twilight didn't have any other opponent that could fill the role as a teacher. So she asked me if I didn't have that, she had to cancel that school, that class, and you know that many of the students prefer having gym class. But if it was okay, maybe to have this tea party tomorrow. After all, this Sunday is Saturday and no school then. And Fluttershy thought for a phone a few seconds and said, "Yeah, I can tell Discord about that. I'm sure he would be understanding. Thank you, Fluttershy. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm sorry that still though. I wish I could maybe to make it up to you. You don't have to," said Fluttershy. So Shooting Star said thanks and ran as fast as it or fly as fast back to Ponyville to School of Friendship just in time for the gym class. Despite that he was happy looking forward for his entire week for this, but he at least had to wait for just another day, which he didn't mind. When Fluttershy went to Discourse of Dimension, he saw that she was alone, and he did ask, "Fluttershy, where is Shooting Star? He's supposed to be with you?" And then she explains, "Ah, well, things like that happens. But at least he will be here tomorrow." So, but the next day, Shooting Star arrived to Franchise College around noon, only about maybe it's 5 minutes earlier, and she was still waiting for her to be being invited to Discourse Dimension. And she was really happy to see that he approached, or at least arrived in time. And when Discord opened the portal to his home, Shooting Star was really unexpected at this entirely crazy environment, despite having been described by Fluttershy as best she could. He was not expected to find some islands of below nowhere, and especially Discord's home on a small part of land was surrounded by below nothing. He was a little bit confused and he had no idea where to go or what was up and down or what to do. But the bird actually managed to brought just at his door at Discord's home. They knocked on the door and he opened, and he was really surprised to see that Shooting Star did in fact came around this time. So while they were having the tea, Discord did in fact did ask Shooting Star how he thought about his dimension. Chaosville was he named it. Even at first, Shooting Star was a bit silent, but he did say, "Well, it is unique. I have to admit to that. I mean, even though when Fluttershy did describe me how your dimension was even look like, but she said it was roughly how she would describe it at least. I mean, there's this uh, not offense to Discord, but it's your home, or at least your dimension is crazy, but interesting. I have to admit to that though." But Discord didn't take that as an offensive. He just smiled and laughed and said, "Yeah, I did all this as best I could, as my fit, my personality, you know. Since Lord Disc and Celestial were prefer not me using my chaos powers in Equestria as much. So I thought, why not make my own dimension where I can perform with my magic without much interference, and I can do as much I wanted to do." That Shooting Star could understand, because even with Discord's powers in an Equestria was gonna cause a bit chaos among other ponies. And some ponies may not even would not appreciate what he did or some of that. So he explains that when he told Celestian Luna about his idea to form his own dimension, where he can say and what he can do, perform any chaos magic or powers on himself on his own, and what he wanted to do without that in fact won't be interfere with Equestrian's lives. And both agreed to that. And during this tea party, Fluttershy actually asked Shooting Star how much things has been for him since he came to Ponyville for about at least a few years ago. He said that he actually pretty much enjoyed the living in Ponyville. Before then, he traveled around it the most, and even though he in fact was immortal, like Luna and Celestia and the Discord, he had encountered so much over the years. She'd asked him if he had seen any unusual animals, like perhaps any creatures like Discord before, even before that. But he said no, but even if he did heard about Discord or any creatures like him, it would only be mentioned about as Discord. But he mentioned this there were one pony that he was very close to in his past. It was a mare that he was very much close to. They were very close friends. Unfortunately, she passed away of old age, around 90 years old. But they were very close. They were like brother and sister. He even said that did in fact reminds him much about Fletcher. They had the same type of personality. They both loved animals. They adored animals. And especially to see new exotic animals or even heard stories about different animals that go across the kingdom. Fluttershy just lit up when she heard about this. She wanted to know more about his friend. He told her as much as he couldn't remember what her name was and how she looked like and how much she really cared about her pet rabbit. And hearing that she also had a pet rabbit, it made Fluttershy smile and said, perhaps maybe you're one who's supposed to be a friend with someone like her, maybe like me. It's like that. The rest of the day when them all together, the tea party went really well. They had a lot of talk, it had a lot of laugh, and even Discord perform of his own crazy performance with his chaos magic. But it's still well, they all had a great time. Before they was about to leave, Discord said goodbye to his friends and he even sent them directly to their separate homes. A couple of days later after this at Discord's home, Fluttershy was living in a little bit chaos at her home. And that was not due to the fact that Discord was using his powers. She needed some extra help. So, and as Luna, or as Fluttershy was at her cottage, looking after some animal friends and discovered that she was running low on some animal food again, when she saw that Shooting Star was just close by to her cottage and asked if he could help her with something. And he said, sure, what do you need help with? And she explained that she needs some animal food from the market and some medicine from Dr. Fauna's vet clinic. And he actually even got a list of what kind of food and what type of medicine that he needed to get. And he said, no problem, I can get that. So he left to Ponyville, went through the market to buy some of the new fresh vegetables, fruits, and even other animal foods that on the list was required. And after that was taken care of, he went straight to Dr. Fauna's vet clinic and asked her for the medicine that Fluttershy needed. Dr. Fauna handed over some of the medicine. He thanked her, and he in fact went all the way back to Fluttershy's cottage. And she were really impressed or even stunned to see that Shooting Star was using his magic to levitate all the items at once. She even said that he was really strong in magic. And he said, well, that was does to you after several centuries of training in magic. And she smiled, and then he asked if it was something else she needed help with. And there were in fact just one other thing that she needed help with, and he asked for Gunnevin. He was going to have to go back to town and to return a book that she borrowed from the library, since she had a lot of busy with his animals friends today and she didn't have the time. And since this book was was in fact going back that same day. And he didn't mind to help her. So he went back to town with the book and went back to cottage. He in fact did help Fluttershy a lot with the animal friends, like making the food and even put out the food that I with them. After they were taken care of, Fluttershy needed to go to the animal sanctuary that she built only a while back. She needed to look after some of the animals there to see how they are. So Shooting Star decided to why not go with her to see if she needed some extra help, just in case. So, and he was right, because at this animal sanctuary, she discovered there was some damage to some of the buildings, or at least some of the animal homes they built there. There was a bad storm that passed through it is about 2 days earlier. And Fluttershy has been too busy with her animal friends for the past few days and after that. So she hasn't even been there. So she had no idea how this condition the were. But thanks to Shooting Star, he managed to repair all the damages, even managed to get help to find the animals who has disappeared or at least run away during the storm. And with his help, they both managed to find more of the lost animals and bring them back and give all of them the food that they wanted to have. He even stayed there when Fluttershy stood behind with them, standing with some of the animals, saying to them, trying to calm them down and talk to them. And after that, she was very happy that all the things at the sanctuary had been taken care of. And for that, she walked up to Shooting Star and gave him a hug and said thanks, she really appreciated his help. And especially today, when all the things at her home and sanctuary, she could not have expected at any point, especially him, to be there as close to her home. Because if he had even been there, she would not have even perhaps even been finished with her work at the cottage and at her home, and normally at this rate. For that, she called him a true friend. He smiled and said, "That is friends are for." And they even went back to Fluttershy's cottage just after that to have some tea, to calm down the nerves after all of this. After all this chaotic experience this day, Fluttershy was really happy to have Shooting Star as a true friend. Even Fluttershy did say that once again though, and he said that he didn't mind to be as her friend, because she had been there for all of her other friends so much before. And he wanted to really to share his kindness back to some pony like Fluttershy. After all, as much it means to him as a true friend. And that is what she made her first really happy moment. She really expressed her kindness back to him. She really thanked him for all his support, all his help today. She would not probably have been done with all of this even before sunset. And he said, if you need any more help at next time like this ever again, just let me know. I will always be there to help you, no matter what happens. Fluttershy was really happy to know that his support in helping that. And she promised to inform Shooting Star that the next time if she needed any extra help at the cottage or at the animal sanctuary. And for that, he was really happy to be there to support and help her at any case or any help she needed. And for that is how Fluttershy and Shooting Star became true friends. The end.